Okay. Ms. Prince, I just muted you. You can unmute. Yeah, okay. Okay. It looks like we have a full house here, so we are going to get started. I'm making sure the control room is prepared as well. All right. The meeting of the St. Paul City Council will come to order. Roll call.
Prince.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Yang.
Here.
Jalali.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Council President Brenmoen.
Here.
7 present, no one absent.
Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda items 3 through 8 are before you for your consideration.
We have a request to pull item number 6. Are there any other items that should be taken separately today? All right. Seeing none, Ms. Naker moves the consent agenda. Roll call.
Prince.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Yang.
Aye.
Jalali.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The consent agenda is adopted as amended. Item number 6, Resolution 20-1230, authorizing the City of St. Paul to transfer $3,546,442 of the Coronavirus Relief Fund aid to specific accounts for the Guaranteed Income Pilot Program and the Bridge Fund Program.
And we have Mr. Carter Ramos here and Mr. McCarthy. Would you like to do a brief report on this item? I don't know which one of you to call on.
Great. I'll go Councilmember Brenmoen, Council President Brenmoen, and council members. Thank you for having us in front of you today to speak to this resolution. And I'll particularly be speaking to the part on the People's Prosperity Guaranteed Income Pilot Program. Today's resolution is related to the proposed use of approximately $293,000 of the city's $23.5 million allocation of CARES funding. And this is coming following the mayor's executive order establishing the program through Executive Order 2020-24. It also comes as our community is facing significant challenges, economic challenges in the face of COVID-19. As you know, we are also seeing a number of mayors from across the country who are advocating for these guaranteed income programs and see them, as a vital tool in response to COVID-19. So a little bit about the program is the People's Prosperity Guaranteed Income Pilot Program will provide up to 150 St. Paul families with $500 per month in guaranteed income for up to 18 months. The program will be led out of the Office of Financial Empowerment by my team, and has a projected budget of $1.5 million, which is supported through the Mayors for Guaranteed Income philanthropy, other sources, and then this just shy of $300,000 from the City of St. Paul's CARES funds. So the 150 families, they'll be selected from enrolled college-bound families in the city's most racially diverse and lowest wealth neighborhoods. These include zip codes 55104, 55106, 55119, 55117, which includes Midway, Frogtown, Union Park, Dayton's Bluff, Pink Balin, Battle Creek, Highwood, North End, and Thomasdale. We got to these zip codes as a result of reviewing the Family Housing Fund and Wilder research report that came out at the end of July that detailed that these are the areas in the city that are most impacted by COVID-19, as understood through high unemployment insurance claims, as well as cost burden households that existed, even before COVID-19. Of the 1,800 families that are currently enrolled in College Bound St. Paul, about 1,000 of them live within these 4 zip codes. So we'll be focusing on, families who've had babies, in 2020 as we're, really moving forward, in this space. And what we know about these neighborhoods is there's approximately, median household income of $35,000. So this is how we're beginning to target sort of the population. We'll randomly select from college-bound families who live in those 4 zip codes, and then households will be contacted to complete enrollment and verify they have a COVID economic impact eligible criteria. Those, include having some sort of, job loss, lost wages, unable to get childcare, those sort of type of reasons will be there, and that's outlined in the resolution, as well. Additionally, they will not be able to hold public office or be a city employee. That's a criteria, as well. So for us, the Office of Financial Empowerment staff will staff and support the demonstration pilot. We're have the infrastructure set up through College Bound St. Paul with our financial institutions, and we'll be able to make the cash transfers in that way. Additionally, we'll be working with a national evaluator out of UPenn and the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, who are part of a broader national of the Mayors for Guaranteed Income network. So just to reiterate, the budget for the program is $1.5 million, with up to $1.35 million total coming in direct cash transfers to participants. We've identified funding through the Mayor's Guaranteed Income Network, philanthropy, other sources, and then the $293,592 of CARES CRF dollars that are in front of you today in the resolution. So we're really looking forward to moving this forward. As you know, the CARES funding must be spent by November 15th, and then at that time, moving in December, we'll transition, over to philanthropic sources. So the lion's share here is philanthropic sources, and we're able to leverage these CARES dollars to address sort of the immediate needs of COVID-19 and what residents in the city of St. Paul are facing. So with all that said, I'm happy to take questions, and Director McCarthy is here as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see Ms. Prince has a hand up.
Mr. Karcher-Ramos, I really appreciate this opportunity for the larger City Council audience to hear about the program. We all had our one-on-one meetings, but I think something of this, an exciting program like this and something of this magnitude really belongs on our council agenda as a discussion item. I'm excited about the fact that this is a national pilot. I'm thrilled about the involvement of the University of Pennsylvania and Tennessee, and that so much of this funding is coming from philanthropy. That had been one of my questions, that about $300,000 is coming out of the CARES Act money, if I understand this. And if I heard you correctly, you said that going forward, this will be funded exclusively through philanthropy. Is that correct?
Yeah, there'll be philanthropy and potentially some other sources, whether it's individual donors or other folks that we're working with. So it's not just philanthropy, but there's individual donors and that sort of thing.
Great. And then I had one question for Mr. McCarthy, and that was the resolution before us today refers to the Bridge Fund. And I just want to clarify if what we are doing is restoring funding to the Business Development Fund and the Housing Trust Fund that we used on the Bridge Fund, or if what you're suggesting is that we are somehow continuing the Bridge Fund with these dollars. So could you Could you clarify that?
Sure. Council President Brenmo, Councilmember Prince, it's a good question. We are, this is not a new program. This is funding the Bridge Fund Families and Business Assistance Program through our CARE CRF dollars. So this is not an expansion of the program that we ran a few months ago, but this is using our CARES dollars to fund that program.
Okay, so that our business development fund is back at 2.3 million, and we've restored $1 million to the Housing Trust Fund.
That's correct.
And then I just want to reference, I didn't have time to go into it in any detail. I understand that Congresswoman McCollum has sent us a letter today raising some concerns. It's my understanding that the administration feels that we can respond to those concerns, and that our vote today doesn't preclude any of those issues from being resolved after today's meeting.
Councilmember Brenmo and Councilmember Prince, this program is about, getting families, getting, cash transfers to families who are impacted by COVID-19. And, that's sort of our bottom line as we think about, the response, to Congresswoman McCollum. We know we have the answers to adequately address her concerns. And, we've worked closely with folks across, different agencies and across the state within, the city, and have certainty, in our responses. So, absolutely.
Thank you for that. I think that's all of my questions.
I thank you, Ms. Prince. I see Mr. Tolbert and then Ms. Anker.
So in terms of the income supplement or guaranteed income, that program, today's vote is putting money there, but you will come back with an ordinance that would establish that, or what is the procedurally, how does that work?
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert. So the plan that we have outlined is we would be bringing a few things back to you after this executive order. So one is that we would be bringing forward to accept the philanthropic dollars to continue to run the program, and then two, we would be bringing back an ordinance in front of the council.
Okay. And so at that time, because as I've expressed, I don't see the nexus with the zip codes and people who could be a part of the lottery. To me, if you qualify because of your low income, you've been impacted by COVID, and you meet the other qualifications, it shouldn't matter if you live on St. Paul Avenue or in Union Park or wherever. I mean, you should be able to, it should be a citywide program, and I've expressed that. I don't see how the Wilder study makes the COVID nexus any stronger. I know that that staff believes that, but I don't, from a legal standpoint, I don't think there's any legal argument of how it makes a nexus stronger. So we will have an ordinance that would finalize that so that we can have a council discussion to determine if only four zip codes are people in 4 different zip codes can qualify for this.
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert, we are open to exploring what does this look like as we move into ordinance, and are happy to work with you and others on the council and shaping what that looks like in terms of zip codes and sort of broader criteria as we shift to the ordinance.
Maybe more clearly, what I could ask is, will you be going forward and doing the lottery for the people who qualify within those 4 zip codes before that ordinance comes to the council? And because at a certain point we might be too late to make that decision as 7 of the policymakers of this city.
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert. So how we have it is a stratified rolling sort of enrollment. So there would still be the opportunity to enroll additional folks as the ordinance is rolling out. So that is programmatically how we've set it up.
Okay. And if the Treasury Department determines that the CARES Act cannot fund this amount, what would be the what would the city do?
Council President Brenmo and Council Member Tolbert, the plan is we currently are getting philanthropic sources, and I think what we're really looking to do here is take a bold move to support families, and we believe that through all the assurances we've gotten from both our state partners and others that we are above board in sort of our eligibility and how we're advancing this. Two, I think we would explore those options as we get there, and I would defer to Director McCarthy on anything else on that.
Director McCarthy, do we have the sign off that this is an acceptable use of CARES money from the Treasury Department? I know you've talked to the state and the county, but what about the Treasury Department as Congresswoman McCollum's letter discussed?
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert, we have been basing our all of our decisions related to what we would fund with CARES dollars, including this pilot, based on the guidance that the Treasury Department regularly updates. So we are, as Munir laid out the eligibility criteria, we've tied those directly back to that guidance that we've gotten from Treasury. We have not specifically sent anything to Treasury related to this. I get the sense that they're pretty overwhelmed with the hundreds of governments across the country that are kind of weighing these same questions. And so but they are regularly updating their own guidelines, and we continue to use that information to shape our decisions. And to repeat what Munir said, that we feel confident that this meets those eligibility guidelines that they've laid out.
And so the CARES money is 300,000 of it, of the program? Is that right?
293,000.
Okay, so $300,000 of the CARES, and all that $300,000 would be spent by December 30th, 2020?
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert, for our dollars, we have to spend them by November 15th. So because we are passed through from the state, so we are, the plan for getting this to you today is so that we could get 3 months worth of payments out using our CRF dollars, our CARES dollars, by that November 15th deadline.
And then from November through the 18th months, that would be the philanthropic? And no city dollars would be included in that?
Council President Brenmo and Councilwoman Tolbert, philanthropic and other sources, correct.
Are those other sources city dollars?
Oh, no, those are not city dollars. I know that the mayor has not precluded from using city dollars, but the plan and the intent is not, to ever use city dollars.
And then, what is the timeline of responding to Congresswoman McCollum's letters as the Congresswoman who represents this area? And I think it's important that her questions be given answers, and kind of what is the importance of us voting on this today rather than next week with those questions out there.
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert, we plan to respond to those questions this week. We know that time is of the essence here as we're looking at moving these dollars forward. Our team is effectively waiting for council approval today so that we can begin, our outreach and, getting this program, going. I think for us, it's about keeping these families with babies in our lowest, income wards and neighborhoods, from receiving these cash transfers, and the sooner we can start that outreach process so we can move these dollars. That's sort of what's at stake, and a delay effectively would prevent us moving forward on a September payment.
Okay, you couldn't start the outreach process and having the council vote on this next week without the vote today? I mean, because the program's, obviously been shown to the council in the past week. So a lot of it got lifted off the ground without any council approval. Why is this any different?
Council President Brent Moen, Councilwoman Tolbert, again, this is, we're waiting for council approval before we start, the outreach, for the program, to be getting families enrolled, and that's waiting for the authorization through the council.
I don't have any more questions, but I might have some comments after other people have questions. Council President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tolbert. Ms. Dinker.
Thank you, Council President. I have similar concerns to Councilmember Tolbert, and I guess it would be really helpful if either Mr. Karcher-Ramos or Mr. McCarthy could perhaps walk through the letter that we received from Congresswoman McCollum's office and just kind of respond to those questions. We talked a little bit about the fact that we have Treasury Department guidance, but we haven't actually requested approval from them for this sort of a project. And, I am very supportive of trying out this idea when it comes from other dollars, but I am not at all supportive of using property tax dollars to do these cash payments. And I think that it's an interesting idea at the federal level, but to take tax dollars from people in St. Paul and then give them back out to other people in St. Paul isn't what we should be doing. We should be building systems that benefit everybody, not just a few. And so I'm really concerned about some of the issues that Congresswoman McCollum mentioned that could lead to litigation or clawbacks or anything else that frankly could take either staff time or money from the general fund for this. So I appreciate the assurance that that won't happen, but I would like to know what our answers are going to be to those questions before we approve the use of CARES dollars for this today and are assured that it will be considered justified.
Council President Brent Moen, Councilwoman Naker, how would you like to handle that?
I mean, I guess what I heard her request is an answer to some of the Congresswoman McCollum laid out, 5 questions. I don't think that we have the bandwidth to go through deep dives into each of the questions, but if you have the, if you can give us the answers that you can give us, I know some of the things I read are questions that have been asked and answered. So to the extent that you can fill us in on those, and I think that would be helpful.
Great. So I'll take some of them and not necessarily in order, and then Director McCarthy, if you could also take some of them. So I think there's a questions around effectively a benefits cliff, and what have we been doing on that? We've been working with the Minnesota Department of Human Services and others on pursuing a asset and income exclusion, so that those who are enrolled in this program are not negatively impacted by receiving the $500 cash transfer. So that's one. Two, we have been working on the questions about eligibility, right? These have been in the Treasury guidance, and sort of the dollars being clawed back, is not something that we see. We know that the COVID impact, as outlined in the resolution, are things that are within Treasury guidance for a number of programs, across, the different sort of CARES funding areas. And we believe that, that's above board. There's a question around will folks who are undocumented have access to this program? The answer is, of course, yes. But the answer is we will not be using, CARES dollars. We have philanthropic sources to support, the program. Director McCarthy, are there other items you'd want to lift up or accentuate?
think the other question that comes to mind is the one related to our relationship with the state, as we are kind of a pass-through recipient. We have had verbal, phone conversations with MMB staff, the staff that's managing this grant with Minnesota Management and Budget, who've specifically asked about some of the eligibility requirements, and those conversations were positive once we laid out the plan for the proposal. And, I think some of these same questions come from, not having seen the program design. And so I think I feel comfortable that once we are able to explain the program design to Congresswoman McCollum, that it answers many of these questions just in the way we've created the program, just as it did for MMB when they called with questions, and we were able to lay out the plan and the design for the program, and they felt that it met the requirements that they were tracking as well.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. And I think I appreciate the top line responses, and I think that we're all copied on the letter, and so we'd appreciate being copied on the response and brought along on that journey as well. Our goal is to be obviously in compliance, and our goal is to work in partnership with our great Congresswoman to make a difference in people's lives. So I think that's the request, at least for me, is to make sure that we're brought along moving forward. I think you're hearing a lot of council members saying we were kind of late to the dance in terms of hearing about this program, and I think there's a ton of support and interest in being innovative and recognizing that we can't wait for the federal and state government to take initiatives like this, but we can step forward with funds from philanthropy and from other partners and from this CARES dollars to demonstrate that this will make a difference. And it's my hope that we move forward with this, we collect that data, show that it makes a difference, and that it can be then taken over by an entity that has the bandwidth and capacity to do this for more folks. As Mr. Tolbert was pointing out, it's 150 people is great for 150 people, but we know the need is so much deeper. So, again, to the extent it can be included in all correspondence and follow up with the Congresswoman, that would be welcome and appreciated. I'm looking to see if other colleagues have comments that haven't had an opportunity to speak yet. Ms. Yang.
Council President, I am really supportive of the initiatives here, and I just wanted to ask Munir, after the 150 families receive the guaranteed income, do you have a plan at all on maybe collecting information from them about how beneficial the program was for them, or just some sort of plan to follow up on how that experience was, so we can continue to use that information moving forward if we want to continue something like this? And what is the plan for after the 18, I think you said 18 months, right? In being able to support this or even more families?
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Yang, thank you for the question. I think that part of this initiative is continuing to build the national science that says that this type of program works, right? And what are the implications of it? That is very much something that is the forefront of our thinking as we're moving forward with this. And as I mentioned before, we will be working with evaluators from the University of Pennsylvania and the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. They are the same researchers who have been evaluating the program in Stockton, California, the demonstration project that's been going there for 18 plus months already. They are also the evaluators coordinating sort of the national network of demonstration projects that will be happening across the country in other cities. What does that actually entail? That entails folks will receive basically a cash card or debit card, and we will get categories of what are the summary of the spending report, on every month at a high level. We won't be getting individual data on that, but as the cohort, what does that look like? In addition, the researchers will be doing surveys and checking in, with participants along the way in their experience. Some of the things we're really interested in is understanding income volatility. So how does this help stabilize households and their incomes? Two, we'll be looking at around sort of agency, economic agency. So how does this $500 a month inform and instruct the individual choices that are made around how people use and what they're able to do sort of with their different type of economic and spending ability. Three, we'll be looking at financial health and economic well-being. So how much of this gets placed in savings, how much of it gets placed in debt, and other sort of things for their future. And then the fourth, what's the impact of having a college savings account coupled with the guaranteed income, and what's the impact on families when they have both of those things? So we have a robust plan. We've been in deep conversation with folks across the nation on what are the research questions that we're going to ask, and we will be reporting back frequently on the progress and impact of the program.
All right, I see Ms. Jalali, and then Mr. Tolbert and Ms. Prince.
Thank you. Thank you, Munir, for being here today. Thank you for presenting on this initiative. And as I sit here and learn more about the program and think about what our community is going through, I am just struck by how I think the city of St. Paul has continually done what the federal government actually should be doing, which is providing direct assistance to families, keeping businesses afloat, and actually providing for the most low wealth communities and families in our society. And I was honestly surprised and a little disappointed by the letter from the Congresswoman's office. I think all of those questions are very fair to ask, but I also think that this city government has proven throughout the course of the pandemic our ability to examine federal regulations, make responsible and innovative use of existing funds we have the purview to use, and then be smart, thoughtful, and responsible with the resources that we desperately need from the federal government. I am saddened that we're in a reality where Congress gave every family $1,200, and essentially since then we haven't received any individual support. And that for some families was money that was already spoken for. And I don't even think some is remotely accurate. Before this pandemic hit, roughly half of American families had $500 or less in a savings account. They couldn't handle one emergency, one family member dying, one unanticipated funeral, one slip on the sidewalk, one car accident, 1 week out sick. And this year has been like 3 to 7 emergencies a week for American families. So I think that when we start to scrutinize really, really, really closely programs that are just giving money to families who need it, it is really unfair as a standard when we think about all the other types of handouts and subsidies that get given to people who are richer every single day. And poverty is solved by giving money to people. It's really just that simple. And so I think this is that we are doing a lawful use of everything that's being asked of us. I think it is very fair to ask all those questions. Everyone responsible and entrusted with taxpayer money ought to answer for those questions. But I'm confident in the accounting that's been done and our demonstrated ability to deliver for families in need when other levels of government won't. So I'm supportive of the program moving forward. I think it's important. It will help families in areas of the community that I represent and across the city. And we need to do much more, and we can't do it by ourselves. So I welcome the partnership of other levels of government toward that effort. It's a very, very hard time for our community, as everyone knows. So I simply want to speak in support. I think that it's very, very important that we remember the context for what's happening here, and I'll be voting in support today.
Thank you, Ms. Jalali. Mr. Tolbert and then Ms. Prince.
Yeah, sorry, I had one more question that I had written down that I had failed to ask before. So I know people are giving their speeches now, but for purposes of other public assistance, whether MFIP housing grants, MFIP cash grants, or medical assistance or anything like that, the state has told us that this would not be considered income. Is that correct? Or would this be counted towards potential applicants' income for when doing the calculation for their other potential public assistance programs.
Council President Brenmo, Councilmember Tolbert, if CAO is on the call, I think they're the folks who've been doing the analysis on that. So I would defer to them on that question.
I mean, interestingly enough, where is the city attorney's office?
Are they in the lobby?
Ms. Tierney is invited but not on the call.
Council President Ramon, Councilman Tolbert, maybe we can follow up with you on that and get Rachel and Ian to connect with you on that.
And that's a question about the cliff and basically making sure that people don't lose the benefits that they receive by the county. Mr. Tolbert?
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, it's probably one of the most important questions. Obviously, the important question is, could this potentially jeopardize the other CARES money? That's the first issue, and I think that's what Congresswoman McCollum's letter is discussing. The second question, the more important one for me personally, is would we be taking someone off their other public assistance that likely the grant could be much larger than this could be? And like I said, that could be anything from MFIP cash grants to MFIP child care grants or medical assistance even. And I wouldn't want any of these applicants to get disqualified from state or federal public assistance grants because of this. And that's worrisome to me. I think that's not our intent here, and that's why I want to make sure that we have done our due diligence on that, and that's an important question.
Councilmember Remo and Councilmember Tolbert. So we've done the scenarios with the Children's Defense Fund Economic Stability Index and the impact at different income levels, household sizes, with the $500. So we're well aware. Part of our work will be doing benefits counseling, with each participant, so they're making an informed decision on if there are any impacts on benefits and that sort of thing. And again, we've been speaking to the Minnesota Department of Human Services about an exclusion for asset and income. So that is kind of where we are in the moment, and I know that CAO would have additional details on that.
Okay, and we're working on our CAO is having some issues with Wi-Fi apparently, but if we want to defer that for a moment until we get legal staff on the line, we can go to Mr. Tao or Ms. Prince and then Mr. Tao, if that's all right. Ms. Prince?
Yeah, thank you. I am deeply concerned about the letter we received from Congresswoman McCollum's office, and I regret that my colleague would consider it to be anything other than a really important piece of advice from our Congresswoman who represents our city really masterfully and well. I did not have a chance to fully digest the letter before this meeting. I definitely have some concerns that apparently other than getting responses from our staff, I was going to ask if the city attorney had considered Congresswoman McCollum's letter, which I think merits an opinion, or having the city attorney advise us on whether there are issues there that we need to be concerned about. Has that happened, Mr. Karcher-Ramos? Council
President Renmo and Councilmember Prince. So With the, as we sort of read the letter, that from Congresswoman McCollum, the questions are questions and not to say informed concerns, right? So we haven't had a conversation, in depth, with her office, and we received that letter, at the same time as you, and again, as Director McCarthy and I've expressed, we're confident sort of in the program and where things are headed, and being able to address those questions in quick order, and keeping the council informed. So on that piece there, and I see that City Attorney's Office also did this. So.
And
Ms.
if I could
Prince,
also,
Ms. Prince, sorry to interrupt you. Would you be comfortable? I see that Ms. Tierney is on the line. Would it be helpful for your questioning to hear from Ms. Rachel or from Rachel Tierney before we move on, just
Sure.
to answer some of your questions? Okay. It seems like some of them are kind of going back to what Mr. Tolbert was asking, and maybe it'd be helpful to hear from Ms. Tierney. Ms. Rachel, as I refer to her.
Council President Brenmo, sorry, technology issues happen at the worst possible moments. Can you repeat your question? I probably missed it.
I can.
Mr. Tolbert.
Yeah, what we want to ensure is that any potential applicant who receives this money, it wouldn't be considered income for purposes of calculating their other potential public assistance grants, whether that be MFIP cash, MFIP housing, MFIP child care, medical assistance, or any other public assistance programs that currently exist in the state that they may be qualifying for and receiving funds from.
Okay.
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert, I think all of those things are still being figured out. The good news is we haven't distributed any funds yet, so we're trying to get this money out the door as quickly as possible, and so there's a little bit of learning that's going on as we're trying to implement the program, and I would definitely put those issues into that category.
So it's possible that they could, it could be counted as income? We're just not sure.
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Tolbert, we still really need to dig into those programs to understand the potential impact of these funds.
All right, thank you.
and Council President Brenmo, if I could, Ms. Tierney, have you had an opportunity to review Congresswoman McCollum's letter to see if there are issues, or anybody in the City Attorney's Office, to see if there are issues that we need to research further before we take action on this?
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Prince, I have reviewed Congresswoman McCollum's letter. I received it about 15 minutes before this meeting began. I've been communicating with Ian Welsh in my office, who is the primary attorney assigned to this project, and we're still trying to figure out whether we have any additional concerns. At this point, we don't have additional concerns, but we're obviously going to fully analyze all of her questions to make sure.
Mr. Tao?
Thank you, Council President. I think that just listening to all the comments and the questions, I think there's no doubt that many of us on the council and even the city wants people to do well and to get the kind of help and support that they need. But also, reading the letter from Congresswoman Betty McCollum and just listening to what's being said, I feel that maybe we need more time to look through this. And I know that the city always have good intent. The council, the mayor, we always have good intent. And sometimes good intent without proper analysis also lead to different unintended consequences. And we've had that in the past. So we've all have experienced that. And the question I would ask is, what about when we are talking about subsidy money, what about seniors who are on fixed income, who are also affected by this. They may not have kids that are part of the college saving plan, but they are also struggling. What about folks who have disability? Are they going to have access to this as well? Because if we're looking for real data set of a normal society, that range of folks or recipients should be stretched across the city and of different demographics, not just those zip code. And I know that I represent some of those zip code, but I also think that the lady down the street, the old grandma, I think she's just as deserving of an opportunity because she's also struggling in a fixed income. So I just wonder if any thoughts have gone to that. And then I think my ask would be that we should lay this over so that those answers are answered. And I like to call Congress Betty McCollum and clarify some of the questions she's trying to ask as well.
Thank you, Mr. Tao. So there is a call from Mr. Tao to lay this item over. Are there thoughts on that, given some of the questions that have not been fully answered? And my one thought is we did do this legal research with the Bridge Fund, and I'm wondering if there's any overlay between resources that were distributed for the Bridge Fund and resources that would be distributed as part of this program. It seems like we've done the research and should be able to answer that question. John, you're nodding. I just think if we don't have answers to that particular question, I'm sensing there's some discomfort in moving forward today. Anyone?
Council President Brenmo, I can't do the legal analysis as not the attorney on the call. And I know as Ms. Tierney indicated, we're working with Mr. Welch in her office. But we did, under the Bridge Fund, determine that emergency assistance was not taxable income and was not included in gross income. For a federal disaster as this is, that emergency financial aid grants under CARES Act and the Bridge Fund at the time were, as tied directly to COVID-19 pandemic, that was not that they qualify as disaster relief payments, and so therefore were not counted as gross income. But this would want to make sure that this program falls under that same guidelines and same guidance that we established under the Bridge Fund.
All right. I see Mr. Tolbert and Mr. Tao. Mr. Tolbert, and there is, I believe Mr. Tao has made a motion to lay the matter over for a week. Mr. Tolbert.
Yeah, I'll speak on that a little bit. And I, as someone who was a part of the Bridge Fund, it did not count as income, partly because of some of the emergency executive orders and state statute. I don't recall them off the top of my head, but the situation is a little bit different now, and it makes me very worrisome that we don't have a very specific answer on that. That should have been the first piece of research that we did. So, and I think part of the confusion here is it's called, I believe, publicly it's being called a guaranteed income program, but the purpose of it really is a supplemental public assistance social safety net, which I support in theory and wanted to talk about. And I also think that the important thing that we remember here is that this will be leveraging a lot of money from outside of our community for people in our community who are really struggling. And that's a really good benefit of this. I will add, I think long-term, as Council President Brenmo said last week at the press conference, I don't think we're the right unit of government to administer this because of on a larger scale than this, because of the large-scale administrative costs that would be required to set up this program. But I do think with COVID and the economic recession, we do need to step in some ways on this. And as I voiced my concerns, this getting counted as income would be very I think could be damaging to some of these families that really rely on the public assistance programs, albeit they're not enough public assistance. But the fact that we don't know that for sure answer, and I think the fact that Congresswoman McCollum's letter raises questions about the larger CARES package and other things. I do have some hesitation on this. I was ready to vote on this today, but those two answers really make me pause and think that we should lay this over for another week so that we can get those questions answered and fully vet this program. As I said earlier, the program seemed to be able to be rolled out without having any council authority to do it or approval. It seems that the next couple steps probably could continue that process at the mayor's direction without the funding source being approved yet too. So I think one more week so that we can do our due diligence and ensure that these families aren't negatively affected, and also that we can ensure that Congresswoman McCollum's questions are answered to her and to us, I think is important. And lastly, I continue to say that I don't understand the zip code issue, and I strongly object to that. I think if you qualify for this program based on your income and you've been affected by COVID and you meet the other qualifications, it doesn't matter where in the city of St. Paul you live, you should be able to at least be in this lottery. The zip code distinction doesn't make sense to me, and I hope that will continue to be revisited and we can discuss it at a future time. So I will support the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tolbert. Ms. Maker?
Thank you. I'll also support the motion. I would like to second Councilmember Tolbert's concerns about the zip codes versus COVID eligibility and impact. And I also just want to point out something in Congresswoman McCollum's letter that I think is really important, which is she talks about the national attention that this pilot will garner. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And we want to make sure that that's positive national attention, especially because, as she mentions, she and her colleagues are going to be searching for additional hundreds of billions of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars, for our city and our state. So I think we need to look at the long term, about our long-term fiscal success, which is going to depend in part on showing fidelity to federal rules and showing that we really want to be a good partner to our federal representatives.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Are there thoughts on the motion of from Mr. Tao to lay the matter over for 1 week for clarity on these questions that have been unanswered? Ms. Yang.
Thanks, Council President. I resonate with Councilmember Tolbert coming here ready to vote, but I think what's really helpful is hearing everyone's thoughts about this. And it sounds like people still have a lot of questions that are unanswered. And so I'm hoping that, with the motion here that maybe it might delay the timeline a week or so, but hopefully staff can, work together on hastening the timeline or doing what they can to really cope with, the week that we're taking to try and get answers. And so thanks everyone for being really transparent and sharing about your concerns. I will also support the 1 week layover too.
All right, so there is a motion and much support for a layover. So let's not belabor the point further. And Ms. Maker, sorry.
Sorry, Council President, I'm ready to vote. I'm wondering if there's any way to separate out the dollars for the bridge fund from the dollars for the prosperity program, just because it doesn't sound like there's any controversy about that. And I know, our business assistance funds are really eager to be replenished and gotten out the door to businesses. So is there any mechanism to divide those two out? I guess I'm looking to Ms. Tierney and my colleagues.
I guess Council President Brenmo and Council Member Naker, I'd be interested in what Mr. McCarthy thought about that. I don't know how readily that could be done. I think you could orally amend the resolution, but I don't know if Mr. McCarthy sees a problem I don't see with that issue.
Council President Brenmo and Councilmember Naker, I think it would require an amendment to the resolution. I guess I'd defer back to City Attorney on kind of the line item adjustment of a budget amendment. But if the proposal is just to remove that section, the section related to the People's Prosperity Pilot. I think, if the text can be amended at the table, then I think that's the bulk of the enforceable language from the resolution.
I would just throw out there that we're talking about 7 days, and I know that time is of the essence, and I can understand. I appreciate Ms. Nicker's creativity here, but I'm wondering if the effort to try to figure out how to do it in a different way in this short amount of time merits the staff time and I just don't know. I don't know enough about it.
It probably doesn't. I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
It's a good question. All right, so there's a motion. Ms. Yang, do you have your? No, okay. So there's a motion in front of us to lay this matter over for 1 week for clarifying questions and to come back to the council with those answers. So by Mr. Tao. So let's go to a roll call.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Jalali?
No.
Naker?
Aye.
Council President Brenmon? Council President Brenmon?
Aye. I just got kicked off for a minute. Is that happening to other people? I just got totally kicked off and was on hold. Okay. Aye.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, being Councilmember Jalali. The resolution is laid over to September 16th. Item number 9, Resolution 20-1194, approving the 2020 Cultural Sales Tax Revitalization General Operating Fund Grant Program Guidelines.
All right. So we believe we have a staff report on this item as well. Is that I'm looking to see. I'm not sure who is staff report on this item.
I think Nora is here.
Council President Brown, would that, are you looking to me for some information? This is Nora Riemann-Schneider.
Yep, I think just a quick, sorry to keep you here so long. Just a quick update.
Conversation.
Just a quick update on what we're doing with this particular item, I think, for folks to understand. I think there's support, but just some clarification.
Sure thing. Happy to do so. And so this year, with the 2020 Cultural Star Program, there was an earlier round 1, as we would typically have, with a deadline of late February. And what's being proposed is that program be canceled due to the COVID impacts of many of those programs having to change course with the emergency orders and the lack of events happening right now. Also, kind of the pivot in priorities of the nonprofit arts and cultural organizations to more of a survival mode. So what we're proposing here is a general operating fund for all of the, basically, more or less all of the 2020 Cultural Star dollars. So this would be the one and only application cycle for this year. And it would be more of a general fund for arts and cultural nonprofit organizations that are based in St. Paul, really flexible funds, just showing that there's some impact and some use that they have for the funds, a really streamlined application process. And with the amount of money that we have, we would maintain the STAR law requirement of at least 80% of the funds being awarded within the downtown cultural district, which means that those that are located downtown or that have had some kind of programming and cultural star grant within downtown could be designated as a cultural district organization, and that pool of funds would be evenly distributed to all of those eligible applicants. And then the other pool is much smaller. It's 20% of the budget for the year, and that would go toward organizations that are based inside St. Paul but outside of the downtown cultural district. And those grants would be $5,000 and awarded on a random selection process because we expect to receive more applicants than funding available. So just looking for a a streamlined, efficient way to support these arts and cultural organizations in this time of need so that they are around when arts can be experienced again in person.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? All right. Thanks for being here to share that information with us. We appreciate it. We appreciate the nimble work that you're doing to make sure that this is allocated appropriately. Mr. McCarthy, your hand is up.
I apologize, Council President Brenman. I think that was from mid last agenda item. I'm just listening into the Cultural Star agenda item.
Okay.
It's not on this item. I will try to lower my hand here. Sorry.
I just want to make sure you weren't there to weigh in on.
Totally support this as well.
Okay. The punchy time has started. All right. So there are no, looks like there's no questions. So this item would be moved by Ms. Naker. Roll call.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Council President Bradmoon?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 10, final adoption of ordinance 20-28, amending legislative code chapters 60, 63, and 66 pertaining to the RM zoning districts.
And this is in front of us for final adoption. Is there any final discussion on this item? Ms. Baker.
Thanks so much. I just want to once again thank Bill Dermody and staff for so much work on this, and then also to recognize once again the Summit Hill Association and many other district councils' work. But SHA in particular put a ton of brain power and time into developing not only recommendations but Excel charts and calculations of density and just really thoughtful work. And I appreciate that very much. The main thrust of their comments was that the city should be encouraging density, not just through these towers surrounded by parking, but also through shorter, bulkier buildings that actually are often a better fit inside neighborhoods, but still allow us to add the density we need. And I've been thinking about their recommendations a good deal and looking at what's being proposed. And I've decided to support the recommendations as they are, because I think they do encourage those shorter, bulkier buildings, the infill density over the taller buildings in a couple of ways. First of all, they get rid of the 9,000 square foot lot minimum for triplexes, and they get rid of the 35% max lot coverage. So basically the new zoning expands the size that you can build on a parcel, but it still keeps base heights the same. And there's also a built-in incentive for a developer to stay shorter, because if you build underneath 35 feet, then the side yard setback is only 6 feet as opposed to 9 feet. So it actually does contain an incentive to build shorter, bulkier rather than taller. And I worry that lowering the base heights, which was a recommendation of SHA, even if it could still result in the same level of density, I worry that it wouldn't take advantage, first of all, of the opportunity we have on corners and on bigger lots for higher buildings that do still fit into the neighborhood and would give us more living units. And I also worry about the mixed message that it might send to developers. I think we want to be really clear that we're encouraging density with this rather than closing ourselves off to it. And lowering heights from what they are now, I think, would send the wrong message. So I do overall support the thrust of what SHA recommended. And I, again, thank them so much for their work on this. And I'm going to support the recommendations as is today.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Ms. Prince? Ms. Prince, you're still on mute. There you are.
Conversely, I felt strongly that SHA had raised some really valuable and valid points that warranted our consideration. And I am concerned. We've seen some articles coming out lately about the whole issue of generational wealth building and single family zoning and so forth. And I'm concerned that we are not looking at these issues in conjunction with each other. And so I am not prepared to vote in support of this today. I think there's some good work that's been done, but I think that we need to pull all of our housing issues together to take a better look at these all at the same time. And until we do that, I just can't get there on this.
All right, thank you, Ms. Prince. Ms. Baker, did you have further thoughts? No? Okay. Mr. McCarthy? Just kidding. Let's see. All right, so Ms. Baker would move approval. Roll call.
Prince,
No.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, being Councilmember Prince. The ordinance is adopted. Item number 11, second reading of ordinance 20-30, amending chapter 66 of the legislative code pertaining to residential standards in planning districts 14 and 15. This ordinance is laid over to September 16th for third reading public hearing. Item number 12, resolution public hearing 20-188, amending the financing and spending plans in the fire department in the amount of $250,000 for a contribution received from the Minnesota Board of Firefighter Training and Education to pay for training and equipment for the Minnesota Aviation Rescue Team and helicopter training with the Minnesota State Patrol.
And this is a public hearing, and the item has been accepting input online and by phone. And so Mr. Tolbert would move to close the public hearing and approve. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert, I think I heard a faint yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Sorry. Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Nager,
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 13, resolution public hearing 20-189, amending the financing and spending plans in the fire department in the amount of $100,000 for a contribution received from the Minnesota Board of Firefighter Training and Education and the Fire Service Advisory Committee to pay for training and equipment for the Minnesota Aviation Rescue Team.
This is a public hearing, and input has been taken online and by phone. With that, Ms. Yang would move to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Naker,
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 14, resolution public hearing 20-183, authorizing the police department to enter into a grant agreement with the Office of National Drug Control Policy for the high-intensity drug trafficking area programs and amending the 2020 budget and activity budget.
And this item is taken input online and by phone. And with that, Ms. Naker moves to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Naker,
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 15, resolution public hearing 20-184, authorizing the police department to enter into a grant agreement with Ramsey County, a political subdivision of the state of Minnesota, on behalf of Workforce Solutions for the Coronavirus Emergency Grant Agreement.
And public input has been taken online and by phone. So with that, Mr. Tao would move to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Naker,
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 16, Resolution Public Hearing 20-182, approving the application of Tom Schroeder Waldman for a sound level variance for amplified music at 445 Smith Avenue North, September 18th to 20th and September 25th to 27th during the Waldman Oktoberfest.
All right, and this is public hearing. We've taken input online and by phone. So with that, Ms. Baker would move to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 17, Ordinance 20-31, creating Chapter 142 of the Legislative Code pertaining to a special service district in downtown. And this is the item that we need to continue the public hearing to next week.
Yes, and so this is a public hearing. We've taken input online. Was noticed incorrectly for next week. So Ms. Baker would move to hold open the public hearing and lay the matter over to next week. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is continued to September 16th. For the following cases, no objections to the legislative hearing officer's recommendations were received. Therefore, she recommends adoption. Item 18, RLH RR 20-27, 1064 Bush Avenue. Item 20, RLH FCO 20-118, 725 Clark Street. Item 21, RLH FCO 20-121, 4749 Cook Avenue West. Item 25, RLH TA 20-545, 1827 Hyacinth Avenue East. Item 26, RLH FCO 20-114, 1133 Lawson Avenue East. Item 27, RLH CO 20-12, 103 Magnolia Avenue West. Item 28, RLH SAO 20-19, 1281 Margaret Street. Item 29, RLH VO 20-33, 777 6th Street East. And item 31, RLH AR 20-114, assessment of garbage collection, delinquent bills. And again, the motion is to adopt these items.
All right. So Ms. Yang would move to close the public hearing and adopt these items as recommended by the legislative hearing officer. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted. For the following cases, no objections to the legislative hearing officer's amended recommendations were received, and therefore she recommends amendment and adoption of the following items. Number 19, RLH TA 20-138, 994 Carroll Avenue. Item 22, RLH RR 20-13, 134 Elizabeth Street East. Item 24, RLH TA 20-148, 1322 Grand Avenue. And item 30, RLH RR 20-19, 985 Woodbridge Street. And again, the motion is to amend and adopt.
So with that, Mr. Tao would move to close the public hearings and amend and adopt these items as recommended by the legislative hearing officer. Any discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none, roll call.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted as amended. For the following case, the legislative hearing officer recommends continuing the public hearing to September 23rd. Item 23, RLH RR 20-16, 530 Geranium Avenue East. And the motion would be continue the public hearing to September 23rd.
All right. And I believe, is that in Ward 6 or Ward 5?
5.
All right.
5.
So I would move that motion and close the public hearing. Is that, can you
Continue.
repeat the motion? I was trying
Continue
to. Okay.
Continue to the 23rd.
So the 23rd. All right. And I would make that motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Naker,
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is continued to September 23rd. And that is the last item.
All right. So we have completed our agenda, and I will look to my colleagues to see if folks have news from the ward or around the city that they'd like to share. Ms. Prince.
Yes. I just got word from the Minnesota Rapid Response Coalition through Alexander Bourne that that organization will be providing the entire community unlimited and free coin laundry on Thursday, September 17th. The event will take place in Ward 7 at the Sunray Laundromat, which is on the corner of Ruth and Old Hudson Road, from 6 a.m. to midnight. And I want to note that Sunray Laundromat is owned and operated by Remy Ishelowa, who's just a wonderful businesswoman from Nigeria in our community. But she is providing 18 hours of free laundry for people in need. There will be free transportation to and from the event. And stay tuned for how to schedule a pickup. I'll make sure to put it on my social media. And last year, this project served over 250 families. And this year, the capacity of the laundromat is 2.5 times greater. So this is really a great opportunity for the community. So thanks to the Minnesota Rapid Response Coalition and Alexander Bourne for his hard work on this special offer.
Wonderful. Thanks, Council Member. Are there other news from the ward? I'll just share very briefly that a couple weekends ago, I took a bike ride from Como Lake to Lake Phalen on the Grand Round facility and connecting to Bruce Bento and then to the Gateway and back to the Grand Round. And it was a fantastic bike ride between Ward 5 and Ward 6. And it was so much fun that I invited a bunch of neighbors, and 17 people joined me this weekend to go on the same ride and just go check out the beautiful amenities we have and the connected bikeways. And I bring this up because right now in Ward 4, the next leg of the Grand Round is under construction, and it is my hope that when that is complete, we can do a great slow roll from Ward 5 through Ward 6 and 4 all included, and maybe do a kind of state fairgrounds to Lake Phalen and back. So we'll invite you all, but these infrastructure connections, as they are connecting to each other, create great routes for families. We had a kid that was 1 year old who joined us, and folks that were well into their retirement who joined us, and everyone really seemed to have a fun time. And I was really proud of our beautiful city, particularly the ride around Lake Phalen was very fun. And some of the people we were with had never been there before, so it was really cool. So I'm excited about the projects that are underway and the projects that we've completed, and I wanted to just take a pause to shout those things out. I see Ms. Prince still has her hand up.
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh. Great. If there's no other news from the wards at this time, then we have reached the end of our agenda and we will be adjourned. Thank you all so much.